Deputy Colm Keaveney, the redundancy dispute at Rehab Recycling, Galway.
Thank Corla. I have recently brought an urgent matter concerning a forced contested redundancy situation in Galway to the attention of several ministers, including the Minister for Social Protection and the Minister for Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation. Rehab Enterprise plan to make 18 employees in their recycling centre in Galway redundant. Only a limited number of these employees have indicated that they were willing to partake in a voluntary process, leaving around approximately 50 employees to be forced out the door. Many of these employees have been on short time for the last 2.5 years, despite the fact that we have witnessed a significant increase in Rehab Group's operating surplus from €1.9 million in 2009 to €2.3 million in 2010. Most of the employees affected are unskilled and have some form of disability, and both of these factors, Minister, will make it incredibly difficult for those people affected to find alternative employment. Workers have contacted me, Minister, concerning this case and are looking for ideas from the government with regard to an attempt to resolve and engage with the employer with regard to a positive outcome and a fix. Worker representatives have asked in this instance for a 3-month pause in the redundancy process to allow for a working group, a working party from the community who have an interest in maintaining the viability of the Galway plant. To date, however, Rehab have not granted to the wish of the workers in this respect to give them a window of opportunity to retain and keep these jobs for vulnerable people affected. SIP2 have also asked in this instance for the accounts of Rehab to be opened in order that an open assessment can be made of the merits of a redundancy case. But to date, nothing has been forthcoming, and unsubstantiated accounts of the company's position have been related. On their group website, Rehab claimed to be, I quote, a leading non-governmental organisation which works towards a world where every person has the opportunity to achieve their potential. Further, they claim, I quote, Rehab enables people to make the most of their skills and talents, to take up employment or further education and live a more independent life. In fact, they make a virtue of, I quote, directly employing up to 200 people with disabilities in their commercial division. Yet, when it comes to determining who should be made redundant, they use a selection criteria that would seem to predetermine or to be punitive to those who have a low skills base, which Rehab have never sought to address over the course of the years of their existence by offering vulnerable workers an opportunity for retraining or reskilling. Now, Minister, this is in sharp contrast to the training and educational opportunities being offered to those in the management team of Rehab. Other selection criteria used were, in my view, irrelevant to the skills needed for the job at the employment. Where is appropriate, I would argue, it was not appropriate for the care of vulnerable workers, where a genuine effort is intended to set out to help and achieve the potential for those people who are entitled to have dignity in the workplace. Minister, to date, all of those that have been affected by this proposal are being affected by poor communication from the employment. There is a lack of transparency with regard to the company's position to their representatives, and what we have is a situation where at most we're seeing an unpaid transition from employment to a process of support to possibly, as much as a CV. And I'm calling on you, Minister, here today to assist in some resolution to the redundancy situation in Galway for these vulnerable people. Some of these people have been working for Rehab for nearly 20 years. It has been their whole life, and time has to be given for a possible working group to give solutions to Rehab with regard to the long-term viability of the facility in Galway. And I'm asking that, that the Rehab group would actively participate in a discussion with the department, who I know play a critical role in subsidising vulnerable workers in society, to think that Rehab would put in place a very corporate selection criteria based on people's skills, their capacity to be in work on time, and to look at their skill set and to consider skill set as an opportunity to retain and to force people out the door, I believe is unacceptable. I think it's unacceptable in light of the fact that we underpin this organisation and we support the hourly rate of pay, I believe, from your own department to retain these workers.
Thank you.
And I'm asking you, Minister, to look at this situation very carefully.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. And I want to thank Deputy Keaveney for raising this very important matter. The redundancies in rehab, I have to say, I heard about them with great regret. However, I just want to stress that they do not arise as a result of any reduction in funding by the Department of Social Protection. As Deputy Keaveney is aware, the Department of Social Protection has recently taken over full responsibility for what is called the Wage Subsidy Scheme, or WSS, since the previous Force Employment Services Division joined the Department of Social Protection with effect from the 1st of January last. I would also like to state that the funding available to rehab under the Wage Subsidy Scheme from the Department of Social Protection has not been reduced in any way. I would like to emphasise that as a result of these redundancies, the Employment Services Unit of the Department of Social Protection will engage with the workers who are being made redundant to assist them in finding alternative employment or indeed appropriate training. I've been informed by the Department of Social Protection local team in Galway that in total 19 posts have been made redundant. 16 of these were supported through the Wage Subsidy Scheme, and the local social protection officers are working with the work subsidy scheme clients to provide them with ongoing support in what I know must be a very difficult time for the workers involved. I've been assured that the local office in Galway will work vigorously to ensure that as many of these individuals are given the necessary further training, guidance and support that they may require. At this point, I would like to maybe give a little bit of context to the Wage Subsidy Scheme, which plays an important and valued role in supporting employers to provide job opportunities in the open labour market for people with disabilities. The objective of the scheme is to increase the numbers of persons with a disability in employment. The scheme provides payment of a wage subsidy to the employer to compensate for the reduced productivity of the disabled worker. The wage subsidies are designed to provide an incentive to employers to look more closely at the potential of disabled people to meet their labour force requirements. The wage subsidy scheme is applied to all commercially orientated enterprises in the state who provide employment to disabled workers. It does not include the voluntary sector. The Rehab Recycling Group in Galway have 34 employees for which they receive what's called a Strand 1 wage subsidy of €530 per hour, subject to a maximum of €10,748 per annum in respect of each employee. The company also received the maximum 50% top-up subsidy under Strand 2. Nationally, the Rehab Group employ 192 people with disabilities for whom they receive the wage scheme subsidy funding. They are the only employer currently eligible to receive a Strand 3 subsidy. The hourly subsidy rate of €530 per hour was originally index linked to the minimum wage. However, the hourly rate was not altered when the minimum wage was last reduced, but then, as you know, it was reinstated. Arrangements have been put in place by the Department of Social Protection in the event that an employee for whom a wage subsidy is payable and can no longer continue in employment for any reason, that their income support payment will automatically be restored without the need to reapply. I understand that SIFTU is meeting with the Director of Rehab Enterprises on Friday to discuss the matter further. I hope that these discussions will be positive, and I would like to restate that the Department of Social Protection will continue wage subsidy scheme funding to rehab. I would also like to stress that the wage subsidy scheme continues to be available as an incentive for employers who provide jobs for people with a disability. And I look forward to hearing a report from the meeting on Friday. As you said, Rehab is in receipt of considerable funding from different organs of the state in relation to their activities, and I certainly hope that there is a positive outcome for the workers concerned.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Keaveney.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Lascan Corla. And I'm delighted, Minister, that you have expressed an interest in looking forward to the outcome of Friday's discussions in relation to those affected workers. I bring to your attention again that Rehab posted a surplus in 2009 of 1.9 million and in 2010 2.3 million. And I note with great clarity the commitment by the Department of Social Protection with regard to the wage subsidy that's currently generously offered by your department. However, Minister, I'm at a loss to understand how legitimate could this redundancy be in the first instance. If the state are subsidising €5.30 per hour off a €9.10 hourly rate, based on the 10,700 per annum, how is it possible that these could be legitimate redundancies? And I'd ask you to bear that in mind when you receive your report back on Friday. How authentic are these redundancies? These are vulnerable people who are being forced out the door, who are not volunteering to this process. And I'm asking you to take particular interest in this situation. Can I conclude, like Cancorla? I welcomed last week, Minister, the Pathways to Work. I think it's a fantastic innovation, policy innovation for your department in this country. However, I hope that it doesn't afford opportunities for organisations like Rehab to look at shedding vulnerable workers and looking at shifting the liability of how people with disabilities in society are supported and maintained in the employment place and carry out an invaluable contribution to an employment. This is an organisation that doesn't pay for raw materials. This is an organisation that is paid to take the raw material in and sell it on with an hourly subsidy of €5.10 an hour.
Thank you.
I'm asking you to draw as much attention to Friday's outcome to these discussions, Minister.
Thank you. Minister.
Yeah, well, as I said, I'll await with interest the outcome of the discussions between SIP2 and the Rehab Director. I take the points that you're making. We have just taken over the wage subsidy scheme with FOSS joining the department on the 1st of January, and already I have launched the employability service, which is, if you like, provides job coaches and other supports both to individuals who have a disability seeking employment and to employers, and which includes a range of possible subsidies. We're currently re-advertising the scheme to employers because, as you noted, the subsidy is potentially very significant and very helpful. So I hope that there will be a positive outcome to the discussions. Rehab has been a trailblazer in relation to the employment of people with a disability, and I certainly would be concerned at any redundancies within that company. And as I said, I expect to receive, further reports, and I hope the outcome of the discussions are successful for the workers involved.
Thank you.